What's going on, guys? JPS back for another video, and today we're going to be watching 15 things Germans don't understand about Americans, and this should be a good one. Now listen, guys, there's more than 15 things that Americans don't understand about Germans, but I know that there's a lot you guys don't get about us. Like, why is our country so damn crazy? Why are we so crazy? Why are there guns everywhere? Why are our elections so like, listen, those are the two big things that come to mind, because we actually do have the election coming up, and I'm sure you guys have been just laughing at us, but we're going to get into this. Here we
Guys, welcome to the Now YouTube channel. Now, I have lived in Germany for quite some time now, and I have had a lot of conversations with my German friends about the differences between German and American culture. I've experienced it a lot. I've experienced culture shock coming to Germany, reverse culture shock going back to the States, so this is something that I'm really interested in and really like. A thing that I have experienced a lot is German people asking me certain things about Americans and the United States. Why do you Americans do this? Why do you Americans have this? Why is it like this in the United States? Today I'm going to address 15 things that Germans just don't understand about the United States. Some things I will explain, some things I will try to justify, and some things I will be right there alongside with you, confused as hell as to why us Americans do some of these things certain ways. So without further ado, let's get into 15 things that Germans do not understand about us Americans. Not using the metric system. Now, I actually did a whole video about this on my Now Nonsense channel. Now, the United States actually did make an attempt at converting to the metric system in the 1970s, but people and businesses just weren't having it. The consensus was kind of like, this is taking too long and it's going to be too much money to convert all of our stuff to the metric system, so let's just stick with our unique imperial.
Yeah, so again, the problem was not the complexity of the metric system, it was just transitioning to it. And of course, why, you know how difficult it is to transition to a system? It just wasn't going to happen. So we're just screwed, we're stuck with it. So much money gets wasted with all the miscalculations. I believe that was in a video I reacted to regarding the differences between the imperial and metric system. Like, it's just so frustrating, bro. Like, why do we have to have a different system? Please.
System where there's 12 inches in a foot and 5,280 feet in a mile.
5,280 feet. You pick this ball up, you run every one of them.
Who needs that divisible by 10 simple nonsense? No metric for us. The same goes for Celsius versus Fahrenheit. Now, I will admit, Celsius makes a lot more sense. Water freezes at 0, boils at 100. For us, water freezes at 32, boils at like 217 or something. I don't even know. But I will say, while I think and know that it is much more logical, I cannot get my brain to switch from Fahrenheit to Celsius. I still, on my phone, keep temperatures in Fahrenheit.
And every time I see Celsius, when I am in Europe, I have to do calculations or pull up a converter on Google. Like, it's so hard to switch between them because you just never fully have it, because it doesn't make sense, bro. Like, what?
Americans eat chips with a lot of meals, specifically some sort of lunch meals like sandwiches. I remember going to Subway with some of my German friends early on, and I was freaking out because the Subway that we went to here in Schwäbisch Hall, they were out of chips. Their rack was cleared out. They hadn't gotten a shipment in. I was freaking out. I can't eat a sandwich without chips. And I think I speak for a lot of Americans there where, you know, we need that crunch. I don't know what it is, maybe being served peanut butter and jelly sandwiches with chips from a young age. It's ingrained in us that we need a side of crunchy chips with many different types of meals. It sticks with me.
No, that is true. That is true. It is like a critical part of your school lunch meal or anything growing up in the United States. You got to have the bag of chips. We're not the healthiest nation. Everyone knows that. Listen, I'll take that. We can have our chips. It's fine. It's fine.
Manual cars. I've seen different figures, but all of them ranging to around the number of only 15 or so % of Americans can drive manual cars. Now, I think this number used to be a lot higher. Both of my parents learned how to drive using a manual car, but in the United States, manual cars have become less and less popular. When you do a driving test, you usually do it with an automatic car, and it is just not commonplace to be learning how to drive manual cars in the United States. And that's why you run into situations like this, me, an American coming to Europe and not being able to drive a manual car for 3-4 years. That's not that uncommon. I actually think it's a great thing that Germans learn to drive with their driving test using a manual car. I think it is better to learn about the engine and how the car works. It's also safer, in my opinion, because you are totally forced to be locked in to your driving. You're focused on the road, focused on switching gears. You can't be distracted trying to mess with the music or text. Whereas in an automatic car, it is much easier for a teenager to be distracted by these sorts of things. So I am actually a big fan of the manual car system. And I will say, personally, I like driving manual car better now.
Manual cars are definitely better, guys. Listen, in the United States, we're not even going to talk about transmission. Everything's automatic transmission. But I need to react to a German driving test because in the United States, everything is encapsulated in the car. Like, there are people driving cars who don't even know how a car works. Like, the basic components of a vehicle. They don't even have a clue what that is. Like, if something is wrong with their car or something happens, they're just stranded. They have to call someone for help because they don't even understand, like, what the car is. Like, people just see steering wheel, gas pedal, put it in drive, and then you got this big screen, infotainment screen, where they're watching stuff or playing music or whatever, scrolling on the phone, distracted. People don't know how to parallel park. People don't know how to back into spaces because every car has a backup camera. Everything is automatic in the United States. And I'm not just talking about the transmission. It's all about not having to, just being completely blind to things. People are so ignorant when it comes to cars here, guys. And like I said, the manual car is way better. I don't even know how to drive manual, and I'm saying this. Like, it's just, you're more in tune with the vehicle. Why would you not want to shift gears? But that's just not, manual cars are not as easy to get here. They're not like, oh my, I'm going to start a whole rant. I already did.
College is incredibly expensive. Now, when I'm talking to Germans, they'll be like, man, I had to pay 250 euros for my university semester this year. It was kind of steep. The average price in the United States for a public college, four-year college, is $37,400 per year. That's for a public college. The average for a private college is $47,000 per year. You're looking at about $200,000 if you want to get a private college education, which...
let me tell y'all something. $47,000 a year for private college, that's light. That is light. There are people paying $80,000 a year. You're not even guaranteeing your employment. They better pick an amazing specialization or major because that's $320,000 to go to college, bro. And I know people who are paying that. I'm not just saying this as some like crazy figure. I know people who are paying that.
In my opinion, in the States, for the most part, those are really the only ones worth going to at this point. The college diploma has become so diluted that I think you really need to go to like an elite school for your college degree to even matter. So you're looking at about $200,000 to get a worthwhile college degree. Don't even get me started. I went to film school for a master's program for one semester and I racked up a nice $30,000 debt there. Speaking of which, if you would like to help me pay off my film school debt, the link to my Patreon is in the description. Lots of fun behind-the-scenes content, exclusive content on there. We just started a movie club, so we do a monthly movie club and discussion. So, if you want to help chip away at that hefty United States film school debt, you are greatly welcomed. There is this stereotype that Americans are loud, and I'm not going to argue with it. If you saw my video a few weeks back where we went to Heidelberg, I kind of harped on Mikey and the other guys for us being really loud. I feel like, guys, we're just being this typical, stereotypical loud group of Americans. And there's a theory for this. There is a theory for why us Americans are always speaking so loudly and yelling. Now here it is, and if you've watched my YouTube videos, you know this a little bit. Americans have a much larger threshold for what the accepted personal bubble is, okay? So we are typically further away from each other when we are speaking. When you're further away from each other, you need to speak a little bit louder. And this is just ingrained to us, so we have, become accustomed to a certain decibel level of speaking that's probably a little bit more like this compared to a German who's used to talking to somebody this close, because Germans, personal bubble doesn't really exist here. And German people are used to speaking at a softer, quieter tone. That is my theory for why us Americans are quite loud.
I honestly had never thought about that theory. My theory was that we are constantly in competition with each other, so we feel the need to speak over each other and one-up each other, and you have to always be confident in this country, which is true as well. But what he's saying is true. We're really spread out, and yeah, it is annoying, though. I can imagine we come into... And Heidelberg is such a chill town. It's so quiet. I literally visited Heidelberg this past summer. So imagine you got a group of American guys. They're all rowdy and I already see it, guys. Trust me. No, Americans don't want to be like that. A lot of times they're just completely ignorant and they don't even realize how they sound to others. It's especially tourists, first time traveling. They'll find out eventually.
Sports clothes. You can very often tell a group of Americans wandering around in Europe by the way that they are dressed. Oftentimes it'll be things like t-shirts, athletic shorts or sweats, baseball hat, sometimes tall white socks and some Nike shoes. Americans like to dress comfortably. There's a name for this style of dress, athleisure. And actually, I'll link an article in the description here about an interesting article about kind of the development of athleisure and companies that have profited off of it, such as Lululemon, where athletic clothes has become basically normal for day-to-day life. People will put on leggings or yoga shorts or yoga pants or whatever.
And they don't even be working out, bro. People put on athletic clothes and don't even work out. They're not even doing anything. They're not active at all. Why are you wearing that?
And go about their day-to-day life, go get a coffee, go to a restaurant, go to work. And this is becoming and has become a thing that is not so crazy in the States. Whereas here in Germany, not so common. And since living here, I have developed a habit actually of always putting on my nice pants, what I believe are my nice pants, those pants that I wore to Ale and Nikki's wedding. Yeah, those ones. I always put on pants like that when I leave the house. I'm trying to not wear sweats typically when I leave the house unless I'm working out. I don't really have a reason for why us Americans do it. I guess we just like to be comfortable. American football. Now, you guys know I am here living in Germany because I play American football team for the Schwäbisch Hall Unicorns in the German Football League. There is a sort of cult following and cult fandom of American football here in Germany, but more widespread, I would say that Germans on the whole don't really understand American football that much. From afar, it sort of looks like some dumb, violent game where all you do is just run into each other and it's just sort of nonsense. Football is actually an incredibly complicated game with a lot of different rules and schemes, and the game is developing in a really interesting way. I would say the best way to describe it for someone who really doesn't understand the game, it is a mix between rugby and chess. The strategy involved and the stoppage after each play, it is a chess game with rugby-style moves and tackling.
That's honestly a great way of describing it, and I'm a huge American football fan. Go Ravens, first of all. But yeah, American football, there's a lot to it. At first glance, people are like, oh, it's stupid. They're just hitting each other and getting concussions. That's true. It is a very violent sport, but there's so many layers to it, and many people don't even give it a chance when it does deserve that chance. But I know you guys got reg football, so you don't need American football if you're already deep into the football. American football they try. The NFL is always trying. They're trying to have games in London. They had a game in Brazil this season. They're trying so hard to push it to an international audience. Matter of fact, I believe they've already had a game in Germany. They just need to keep it in the United States, bro. You guys, they're always pushing stuff. It's all about the money with the NFL, guys. I mean, they're an American after all.
Same saying thank you too often. I feel like I've run into this issue quite a bit when I'm at a store. Say, for example, I go to a bakery, I ask for a pretzel. They say, okay, a pretzel. I say, yeah, dankeschön. And then they go and they put the butter on the pretzel, and then they bring it over and they put it down. And I say, yeah, dankeschön. And then they go to the cash register and get my change, and they hand me my coins back, and I say, okay, dankeschön. 3 times I said thank you, and oftentimes I've had this experience where the person working there it's clear they're like, okay, you already said thank you, stop saying thank you so many times. But in the United States, that's sort of the more polite way of doing things. You'll thank people continuously. If you go to dinner at somebody's house and they cook you a good meal, you almost thank them throughout. Man, this is so good. Thank you guys again. Thanks again. Oh, I really appreciate it. Thanks again. And this kind of overuse of thank you, which kind of goes along with the classic American politeness, I think kind of weirds out Germans sometimes. They're fine with a whole interaction happening, and then at the end, if there's a thanks that is necessary, you can say danke at the end of the interaction. Not 7 times throughout.
And then sometimes it may not even be necessary, and they still will be mad that you said thank you. I feel that so much. Yeah, we're always saying thank you in the United States. It's way too much. Because I feel like it takes away the meaning of the word. Like, if you're always saying thank you, how grateful, like, you shouldn't have to just constantly say it to prove how grateful you are, you know? But that's just how it is. Because if you don't say thank you, then it's seen as rude and, like, ungrateful, and you just taking something for granted or whatever. Like, it's crazy.
Drinking age is 21. Now, I've linked in the description of this video another video that I think gives a great explanation for why the drinking age in the United States is 21. But this I cannot defend. You can do a lot of stuff when you're 18. You can vote, you can join the military and go to war, but you can't drink a beer. I think that is a bit silly. In Germany, teenagers are oftentimes introduced to beer at age 16. It's legal to buy beer at 16, and then at 18, harder alcohols. I think this system kind of eliminates the novelty and the exciting prohibitive nature of the substance. Because in the United States, oftentimes teenagers are so prohibited from alcohol, by the time they get to college and they're on their own and they're able to drink alcohol, they abuse it and get themselves into trouble. Whereas when a German is 20 years old, they've been drinking beer for 4 years, and it's really no big deal for them at this point. So I actually cannot defend this 21 drinking age, and I think, 16 might be a little low, but 18 is more reasonable.
16's fine. As long as it's just with family and every... No, this is so true, though. Think about, like, helicopter parents. Don't let their kids go out or do anything. It's the exact same thing, except the parent is Uncle Sam, and I don't know why Uncle Sam had to make the drinking age 21, but oh well. We're just like a few years behind. So while you guys are relaxed in your early 20s, acquainted with alcohol, we'll be in our mid-20s just now getting into the groove of things since we're...
Americans wear shoes in the house. I have no idea why this is a bit more normal for Americans, but it certainly is. Now, in Germany, this is an absolute no-no. You always see shoes are taken off at the front door. You don't wear your shoes in the house in Germany. Germans will have designated house shoes that they wear in the house. But in the States, it's actually a lot more common. I think about, when people come to our house, stop by our house to stay high or whatever, have a coffee, typically don't take their shoes off. If you take your shoes off in somebody's house, it's almost like it's a certain level of comfort and familiarity that I don't want to say it's not rude, but it's almost over familiar in certain situations. Not really sure why this is, because it's pretty dirty to wear your shoes in the house. I mean, think about it. You're walking through the dirt and the mud and the grass and everything, and then you come into your house and walk on the carpet. So I don't really know why this is more common, but it is. Can't explain it.
And you guys see where I live. Listen, in my house, like any people that come in, I have to tell them to take their shoes off, and I constantly have to remind people and tell them to take your shoes off. And it's not because I want to just be controlling or overbearing or anything like that. I may have a lot of German blood in me because it is more practical to have people take their shoes off. It keeps your house more clean, makes it easier to clean, all those things. And I've always felt that way. But again, I have to constantly remind people who visit my house and things like that to take their shoes off. And that's because it is the norm to keep your shoes on. And I find myself when I go to other people's houses sometimes, I forget to take my shoes off. So it really is the norm to keep your shoes on when visiting someone. And the familiarity thing is super interesting. Like, why does taking your shoes off mean that it's more intimate or you're more familiar with the person that you're visiting? Like, that's just so bizarre to me. And why do we like accept people having their shoes on? Like, because it is so, I don't know. That's a really good point. I've never thought of that, but well, obviously I have thought about that because I don't. Anyways.
This one drives me crazy. The price you see on the sticker in the store, when you go to check out and actually purchase that item, it's not the same price that you saw. Now, this is the case for most states in the USA, and that is because they add the sales tax on at the end, at the counter, instead of including it in the ticket price. This is an absurd system. I have no idea why we do this, probably to trick people into purchasing things because it looks cheaper, and then once you bring it up to the counter, you get this tax added on, and you know, at this point, like, screw it, I'll buy it anyway, but I thought it was cheaper, and that's probably my best guess for why this is the case. But I'm lucky. I live in Oregon, and we don't have a sales tax. So in Oregon and a few other states, the price you see on the sticker is actually the exact price you pay when you check out. But when I, for example, went to college in Washington, D.C., and I had to deal with this stupid tack-on tax, like, just put it in the price, man.
That's a fact. The tax surcharge is incredibly annoying. But there are some companies in the United States that have stopped doing that, and they've started to include the tax in the price, which I really appreciate. And his thought about it being because, they want to make it look cheaper, and then when you get there, you just have to buy it. It's 100% true, and they make that obvious. Because why is everything $2.99, $3.99, $4.99? It's the psychology. You see that too, and you think that it's $2. But in reality, it's $2.99. Really just $3. Why don't they just make it $3? What is that extra cent? That has nothing to do with the tax surcharge. That's just how they work, bro. Everything is trying to deceive you, take your money, and screw you.
Pharmaceutical commercials. The United States is one of 2 countries in the world where it's legal to advertise prescription pharmaceutical drugs to consumers directly. The only other country is New Zealand, and I actually think there's quite a bit of regulation with it. If you watch American TV, I don't know, it feels like 50 to 60% of the commercials are for some prescription drug, where the narrator will say, ask your doctor about so-and-so. And then the commercials got, people dancing in fields and all this weird footage that doesn't match up with the ailment that the medicine is trying to cure. And it's always weird. And at the end, they have these really fast, quickly read, horrible side effects that they say.
This product may kill you. This product, like that's, bro. He is so right. I hate the pharmaceutical advertisements. They're everywhere in the United States. And they always have some BS name. Xylazubilol. Vuva. Like, they literally just be putting random letters together and calling it a drug name. And it's the same thing, but just rebranded, bro. Same drug as the last year and the year before that. Like, I don't think these companies must go out of business within a year, because every year there's a new pharmaceutical name or whatever. Or maybe they're just the same company rebranding it under a different... Listen, bro, it gets annoying. No one wants to, like, no one cares about that, bro. Like, if someone has a condition and they need a drug, they can search for that, because who is even buying them off the advertisements? Maybe I'm being inconsiderate, bro, but, like, come on.
With like a happy and pleasant voice, it's a strange thing, especially for me. After being in Germany for a while, I get freaked out seeing pharmaceutical drug commercials. Vacation Vacation days. Us Americans, we don't like vacation. We like to work 365 days a year, no time off. What are you, lazy? I'm just kidding. I have come to really love the idea and concept of a work-life balance. Not only because it makes you feel more relaxed and make you feel better, but actually in the long run, it makes you more productive of a worker. In Germany, workers are guaranteed 24 days of paid vacation by the government every year. Guaranteed 24, and a lot of times employees actually get closer to 30. In the United States, the federal government guarantees 0 paid vacation days a year. It is not required at all by employers to give their employees paid time off. Now, that's not necessarily the norm. I think people typically get like between 7 to 14 days off a year. But
I was gonna say 8 to 10 days. That's what I've seen the most in my experience in terms of like what job applications have and things like that. It's usually 8, like around that range. A week, maybe 2 weeks if you're lucky, but it's rough, bro. That's like one of the worst parts about working or living in the United States is like worker rights, I guess you could say, or time off. Doesn't really exist.
Year, but it is not guaranteed by the government, and this is something that Germans just are always shocked about when they hear this. Like, you like, what? You're supposed to just work every day except the weekend the whole year, and you have no guarantee of vacation time? Hashtag no days off. Tipping. Now, you tip in Germany, but it is not as big a deal as it is in the United States. In the United States, servers are oftentimes paid $2 to $2.50 an hour by their employer, and the remaining part of their wage is made up from tips. So if you don't tip, they don't get a living wage. This is why it is common to always tip 15% at a restaurant, and if it's good service, you're tipping 20, maybe 25%. This is expected. German tip culture exists, and I would say at a restaurant, maybe you leave about 10% or so, but it's not as expected, and the people who are serving you are actually paid a full wage, and they're not just living off the tips. Now, I actually have a Nauf Nonsense video planned for the history of tipping in the United States. I've been researching it. It's quite interesting. It's very interesting why tipping is so prominent in the USA. So be on the lookout for a Nauf Nonsense video talking about this subject.
To expand upon his point on the true importance of tipping, if you don't tip at a restaurant, someone might let you know how they feel about that. Like waiters and waitresses, when they don't receive tips, they may get a little frustrated or angry because, again, that's why they tend to be more friendly to really try and get those tips, because if they don't, their wages are very low or almost non-existent.
Now, American football fans are diehard crazy fans, but I don't know if it is intense as the European crazy soccer hooligan fandom. But there's one thing that American football fans have that European soccer fans don't, and that is tailgating. Tailgating is sort of the pre-party of a football game where everyone's in the parking lot, people bring barbecues, beers, lawn chairs, and you essentially have an outdoor party in the parking lot where you pre-game the football game. This is a huge tradition, especially with college football and the NFL. There are some NFL teams that have a very specific wild tailgating culture. For example, the Buffalo Bills, Bills Mafia. This is what they do during their tailgates.
Yes.
But this is a huge part of American football culture and tradition is tailgating. And no matter how big or crazy the soccer game is in Germany, people, for the most part, aren't bringing barbecues to the parking lot and having huge parties in the parking lot before the game. This is an American thing. All right, guys, that's
because y'all don't have space for that, bro. We just got too much space. Too many people have cars. Everybody got a truck to tailgate. Oh, actually, that's true. You guys don't even have trucks. That's the whole point of a tailgate, because a truck has a tailgate. When you put the back down, you can go sit in there, put chairs up in the truck bed, go crazy. I've never actually tailgated with a truck, but That sounds crazy. Even with the car though, you just open the trunk up and go crazy. Everything comes back to going crazy. That's what tailgates are. They're fun. So yeah, this was a really good video. 15 things Germans don't understand about Americans. There were some things brought up in this video that I hadn't necessarily thought about. So that was really good because I feel like I've thought a lot about some of the differences between Germans and Americans. Yeah, there was definitely a lot in this. So let me know what you guys thought about this video in the comment section. And also I want to hear in the comments, what is the craziest thing about Americans that you really just can't wrap your head around? And it could be about Americans specifically, or it can be about the United States and the country as a whole. Either or, I really am curious to hear, like, what is that one thing you guys are like, what? I'm going to, for some of you guys, it's going to be guns, I'm sure. But try not to say guns, because that's already crazy as hell. We all know that. So let me hear it in the comments. If you guys enjoyed it, hit that like button, hit subscribe. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.